What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, Backlash exploded online towards Sony after they announced what was really the end of an era, specifically for physical games with PlayStation, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a pretty big game that appears to have leaked early for the Switch 2, and it turns out it's not alone, as there could be maybe another big remake even in development. And we also have Microsoft, who we kind of figure is going the route of all digital, but it looks like they have one final trick up their sleeve for physical owners who have a large library of games that would like to see those follow them at least into the digital era. But all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we have a weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over the world of gaming news, keeping you up to date. So just know, even if you don't get a notification in the morning, it's worth checking in because there's probably a video here. But we're going to start today with PlayStation Plus Essential, as we had the list of games announced. And we can see, this is over on PlayStation Blog. We'll actually be frequenting here quite a bit throughout this show, but starting at the top here, these games will be available starting Tuesday, July 7th, so next week, until Monday, August 3rd. 3 games here. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, that's the cross-gen bundle, so there is actually, it's all PS4 representation here, which is, is good, but that's actually going to be for PS5 and PS4. Then we have For the King 2, PS5 and PS4, and then Crosscode on the PS5 and the PS4. I understand Call of Duty is the big title here that they have. If you've not played Crosscode, that's actually a pretty cool, 2D action RPG, and it's one that stood out to me when it released, and it's cool seeing it go in the PlayStation Plus Essential tier. Just more eyes on it, of course, more people getting to try it out. I know Call of Duty being the big banner one. I've never played For the King 2, so let me know down in the comments if that's one to check out. Otherwise, my recommendation here out of the bunch would certainly be Crosscode. Also, we did have an update that was announced for Mario Kart World. This we can see over on Nintendo Life, and this is update 1.7.0. Has the arrival of Drill Rally and Boomerang Rally in the Knockout Tour mode, and Nintendo has confirmed that there will be more rallies added in the future, and you can add stickers in photo mode. There's also a bunch of other changes and adjustments that they have here when it comes down to things like raising acceleration performance of characters and vehicles that had maybe lower acceleration or gliding speed being raised for certain characters. Just kind of balancing in general across the board here and fixing some minor bugs and issues. It really comes down to them adding more content, though, which is what people have been asking for. And since Mario Kart World is going to be their big game going forward, I think for the entire generation, I would just expect smaller updates like these with extra content added here and there. I do wonder if they'll do some massive or big expansion pass like they did with Mario Kart 8. But at least for now, probably small updates here and there as we go forward. Just continue to add on more content and value to, yes, the $80 game of the generation for Nintendo. Oh, and we're about to talk about Sony's big announcement here when it comes to physical media, but after this got out there was some discussion around next generation with the PlayStation 6 and trying to now line up timing with what Sony put out there. But we can see, now this is from Ampere Analysis, saying that this announcement telegraphs quite a lot of information about Sony's plans for next generation with the PS6. First, they believe this will almost certainly guarantees the PS6 won't arrive until 2028 at the earliest. In fact, their expectation at Ampere Analysis is that the console will launch at the end of 2028. So a year later, I think, than what's being thrown around right now by Kepler and a few others. They are looking at holiday 2027. I guess technically this cutoff date to start 2028 would be okay, now the PS6 is in prime position, and then I don't have to worry about physical media at all, and it's just full speed ahead with code in a box and just buying games off the PlayStation storefront. But that is our lead story, so let's get to it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the massive bombshell that dropped yesterday morning from Sony, naturally right after Newswave went up, and I think I even said something about the all-digital future not being here just yet, and then Sony had to go and do this. Yes, they have announced that physical games, at least for the PlayStation ecosystem going forward, are going to be going extinct here. But we do at least have the month and time and everything to look forward to for this happening, which we can see. Now, this is over on PlayStation Blog. There was something else along with this, which we'll come back to here later on in the show. But they say, as consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. This transition has no impact on games that already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 on disc format. So, I mean, there are still many games that we know about right now coming out of PlayStation. Obviously, Wolverine's coming up here soon, and they've already said it will be on a disc. But I think of things like Intergalactic as an example. It's like, okay, what's happening there? What's happening with that God of War trilogy that's announced? Is that going to be on disc? I mean, it's been announced, but like, hard to say. Now, everyone's looking around like, wow, this is kind of the end of physical media, I think, for gaming. And I know Nintendo is like the Switch 2 generation, they have their game key cards that's already kind of questionable. Yes, you can sell the medium, you can trade it back and forth physically. It does still have to download data. Although, you know, we're seeing a bit of a push here for advertising that the game is on the cartridge. We just talked about that with Oblivion Remastered. They're like doing a whole big campaign right now for marketing of, yeah, it's actually on that cart. Indiana Jones is another one that was shockingly on the cartridge. But this is the thing with PlayStation right now making this push to start 2028, so we're a year and a half out. It's big enough to where it would, I think, shift sentiment or just overall buying practices from the mainstream to where they would get used to just going, yeah, well, okay, I guess it's digital from here on out. And then that would spill over to the Nintendo ecosystem, which Nintendo is already kind of signaling, hey, the digital games are cheaper to buy than physical. So I think that, along with what's happening here with Sony, will push us into an all-digital era completely. With Nintendo, I think this being their last physical generation for the Switch 2, and Sony already telling us that with the start of the PlayStation 6, that's kind of it. Now, when it comes to at retail, how that would work, I figure those little cards that you see on store shelves that you take up to the register and then they activate, and you basically have a code that you punch in and then activate it on your PlayStation Store account. That's probably what would happen. It would work to save on shipping, obviously. They don't have to worry about things leaking out because it has to be activated at the register, and you're still just strictly going through PlayStation Store. And the internet went crazy on this, and as they should, because it just takes away an option for consumers. Now, here's the thing. If you're someone who's only digital anyway, you probably look at this and go, all right, that's fine. It's not really a big deal to me. But here's the thing. The more options you remove, even for someone who's all digital, the less competition there is when it comes to a physical game sale, and then, oh, maybe the digital game would also go on sale, or they would at least do some kind of competition there. And that's the thing. There is a checks and balances here with physical games still existing. If they don't, and it's just all digital, and not only that, it's through specifically a storefront that Sony controls in a closed ecosystem, that's kind of a recipe for disaster and takes away a lot of control, a lot of leverage from consumers. And that is something I think Sony, by the way, will have to deal with, even when it comes to regulators or just further class action lawsuits, because the out they kind of had was that that physical games exist alongside of digital. So there is a way for the market to kind of even itself out, but not necessarily then going into PlayStation 6. And so, of course, the crowd, like a lot of people online, the PlayStation crowd, very vocal about this. And you know the internet's mad when a change.org petition is made. And in fact, there is, you can see it here. Now, at the time of this recording, it's just over 2,000 signatures. We'll see how things go throughout the day tomorrow as this picks up steam, because I think this is just a few hours old now. And I know people are really hoping that Sony will reverse their decision on this. I think they're kind of locked in. And the reason I say that is because if the PlayStation 6 is fully digital, it's a way for Sony to justify subsidizing the system down to probably like $1,000. I say down to $1,000 because by the time, if it is like late 2028, guys, this thing with current trends of memory costs and DRAM, it might be $1,200 if they didn't subsidize it. So yeah, them saying, hey, it's going to be a digital only system. If you buy it, you're only going to our storefront. I think that's part of all of this here. And then of course the control side, and they'll just make more money per sale because they are the PlayStation Store, and that's the only place you can go. So yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to be vocal about this and let Sony know, hey, this is a problem. Like we kind of figured we'd have one more generation for physical media. The writing was sort of on the wall with the way we were moving, and I mean, it's like 85% digital on the side that's so like for Sony that they're showing in their quarterly reports. But it feels like it's too soon. Like there's still, I'd say, millions of people out there who do buy physical media. And if Sony is going to launch a system at $1,000 for the PlayStation 6, you feel like they want to have their most enthusiast customer on board. And guess what? I feel like most of the people still buying physical PlayStation 5 games at retail and bypassing the convenience of digital, those probably are the most enthusiast of their customers. And this is not going to sit well with them. So it seems like an odd thing to do as you're heading towards a system generation launch with the PS6. That will probably be the most expensive and difficult, we'll say, to get people to jump from the PS5 to the new generation. Next up, let's talk about a pretty big leak that happened just randomly for the Switch 2, and it seems like maybe another game will be following up in the series, which we can see. Now, this was posted by Necro Felipe, saying Brazil's Ministry of Justice and Public Security leaks existence of Metroid Ravenous for the Nintendo Switch 2 via classification rating. Listing already deleted from the Brazilian system indicates 2026 as production year. Okay, so, I was looking at this, Metroid Ravenous. Now, Ravenous means extreme hunger. So, I mean, it kind of plays into the sort of like semi-horror vibes that we get out of Metroid. But I mean, like, Metroid Dread was awesome. It was a great game. That's one that I think does need a Switch 2 enhancement update. It doesn't need to go overboard or be crazy or anything. But if they could get that to like 4K 60 docked, or even allow like a 1080p 120 FPS mode, that'd be pretty awesome. But that game, it being blown up on even a handheld with the boost mode or just in docked, like, it could use there's a lot of shimmering, like, and it's a game that I think would look really, really good even with just a basic upscale or just resolution bump for the Switch 2. So I'm hoping that's at least on the docket for Nintendo. But to follow this up, Andy Robinson said more than one of these are coming. That referencing like Metroid, like Metroid Ravenous, Metroid Dread, that kind of thing, 2D Metroid, saying, we eating Metroid fans. That comma's doing a lot of work there, Andy. But, so I'm thinking the other game that's being referred to is a Super Metroid remake. And look, Super Metroid, absolute classic. So yes, it still holds up great, but if they were to remake it in a similar format as what we see right now with Metroid Dread and then potentially Metroid Ravenous, yeah, I'll take that. 2D Metroid all day long. I'll take as much as we can get with that one. So this is exciting stuff. Now, it's kind of hard to say how exactly they're going to release this game, as in like timing, because it kind of feels like they're set up nicely for the rest of this year, with Ocarina of Time being a major focus for them. I figure in November for that, maybe even the same week as GTA 6. This could be, Metroid Ravenous, be a really good way to start off 2027, and they could do the thing where it just pops up one day in a Nintendo Today update, or it is like a big time reveal for a direct that happens, we'll say in September or October, that starts to line up the first half of 2027. But this is going to be awesome. I have to imagine, again, going from the Switch 1, and Metroid Dread already looked great on the Switch 1, ran really well. I'm trying to imagine what they're going to be able to do with the Switch 2, 4K 60 FPS or 1080p 120 with ray tracing and all kinds of other little graphical things they have there that they can play around with. Metroid could look really cool. Like, it'd be awesome. So looking forward to hearing more about Metroid Ravenous, and apparently shout out to the Brazilian government for bringing that one to us early. Next up, let's talk about Xbox. We're talking about PlayStation and then moving away from physical media to start 2028. Kind of feels like Xbox has been there for a bit. I don't know many people are out there buying physical Xbox games, and Microsoft's been trying to push people to the subscription services with Game Pass for quite a while, and that is completely digital at that point. So I think we all kind of figured going into their Project Helix stuff that there wouldn't be a disk drive attached to it. And it seems like Microsoft maybe has been planning this for a while, specifically since the Xbox One days when they were kind of already trying to push people in that direction. But we can see this is reported over on The Verge, where they say Xbox employees recently started testing this new feature after references to enable disk to digital appeared in the Xbox PC app code in May. The Verge is told that the Microsoft's disk to digital feature will work on Xbox One and Xbox Series X disks only, and not those for the Xbox 360 or original Xbox console. Getting a digital copy of a game works simply by inserting a compatible disk and installing and playing the game. This will require a Microsoft account on an Xbox console and will grant a digital entitlement for physical games. This digital entitlement is tied to the specific disc, and it will move from account to account if you swap the physical game with a friend or log into a different Xbox profile and try to play a disc-based game. So I kind of realized this when I was playing around with the MIG switch on for the Switch, and that really came down to specific unique identifying certificates for each and every game existed. And so you would have to dump your own game, your own Switch cartridge. Otherwise, Nintendo would see that the same cartridge is being used twice by different accounts, and you would just be banned then, right? Like they would blacklist your Switch essentially. So I assume a similar thing can happen here. Not that they're blacklisting your Xbox, but that they have unique identifiers for each Xbox One and Xbox Series disc. It's also mentioned that not every Xbox One disc would work, and I think it's kind of referencing early Xbox One games that maybe didn't have unique identifiers built in, or at least like printed on the disc. And so if that's the case, it obviously won't be able to attach that specific ID to your account. And I mean, I like the idea of them trying to figure out a path forward for people who have gone completely physical. But obviously, this also plays into the idea that this is kind of it, and after we get through this, there won't be any more physical discs printed anyway, and it's going to be all digital. And that's just it. To me, it really is a shame because, I mean, console gaming, I think one of the big aspects to it was kind of the in-store experience of buying a game, picking it up at the store, taking it home, and yes, nowadays installing it. But there was something to that, I mean, PC gaming has left that behind a long time ago, which is a real shame, by the way, because PC gaming had some of the best physical releases. They were so unique with the different the boxes themselves would be different, like shapes and sizes, and there was a lot of really cool stuff to it, but they kind of moved on from that a long time ago now. But consoles have kind of been the holdout for that, and seeing Xbox, which again has been obvious, but now PlayStation moving away from it, even coming up with things like disc to digital to try to bridge the gap, it really is a shame. I do wonder if Sony's going to have a similar thing, because that's the other question with the PlayStation 5 to the PlayStation 6. Will there be a way for us to play our physical PS5 and PS4 games on the PlayStation 6? That's really just been left up to speculation, so who really knows at this point? But at least for Xbox, if you have Xbox One and Xbox Series disc games right now, there should be a way to at least bring them forward with you with this disc to digital format that they are testing internally. Seems like something they're preparing to launch, I assume, just ahead of Project Helix. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about some store shutdowns that I think we've kind of been waiting to happen, because Sony years ago announced it already and then backtracked on this due to the overwhelming backlash online, and that's for the PlayStation 3 and the Vita. This we can see, once again, over on PlayStation Blog, saying as the PlayStation Store continues to evolve to support modern commerce systems, including updated payment processing standards, PS3 and PS Vita are no longer able to support these updates at the level required. As a result, we will need to close PlayStation Store on these devices in the time frames as follows. So we have Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua. Those PlayStation Store on PS3 will close starting August 2026. Additional Latin American and Middle Eastern countries, PlayStation Store on PS3 will close starting late 2026. In other countries, PlayStation Store on PS3 and Vita will close in July 2027. So for me in the US, they're giving me a year heads up. Like, hey, if there's anything on those storefronts that you want to buy, you got a year. And obviously a shame once again to see storefronts like these close down, but the PS3 was the last holdout from that Xbox 360 and Wii generation, and it it's going to make it past 20 years. It's not going to shut down, at least for me, till July 2027. But the question does come up for certain games that will basically become kind of abandonware, like people are bringing up Xenogears, because there is an entire like retro section for, say, PlayStation 3 that will then become unavailable after the storefront goes down. And that is, I mean, those are serious concerns, obviously, people are bringing up. And so with the PlayStation 3 store, I'm going to be looking back. I'm going to look over it again just to see if there's anything else I want to pick up. I already have many games that are there that I've already purchased, and you're able to still re-download them even after the store shut down. But for that one, end of an era. For the Vita, I know there's not as many people out there who have Vitas, but that storefront has kind of been broken anyway. Still, though, it's a shame to see these stores get shut down, and honestly, no other way to access it. So I will have to get a video of both of these ahead of their shutdowns, just so we at least have video footage of what things look like before then. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you bought a physical PlayStation 5 game in the last 12 months? Look at that, 57% say yes, 43% say no. I see some people in the comments say, I buy all my games physically on console. Some say I never buy them physically, but in the last year, hey, there was a really good sale. And that is the thing that's going to be a real shame after like physical games basically go away at this point, going into 2028 and beyond. We always, when we see a game come out earlier in the year, what do we say if we're like kind of on the fence? We're like, maybe a Black Friday sale on that one. You know, we'll see what retailers do with it. I mean, that's kind of it. It won't happen anymore. You know, it'll be like, man, I really hope PlayStation decides out of the kindness of their heart to put that game on sale around Cyber Monday, and then they don't really have to then. So again, that is, it's quite frustrating because it's just less opportunities for many of us to find games cheaper. And for most of these games, if you look now, people are already doing the comparison. Here's what it costs on PlayStation Store. It's full price at $70. Here it is over at Walmart, marked down to $28. Yeah, that's gone. That won't be a thing anymore. And again, less choice then for consumers. Really no good way to spin it at all for anyone going forward. Just honestly, just a major loss there for consumers. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Jonathan, who says, Sony also having one of the worst refund policies. Going full digital is very scary for consumers. That's the other thing. I mean, Valve, like with Steam, they have like that 2-hour refund policy, but they didn't really do that one themselves. To my understanding, they were kind of pushed in that direction, I think, by regulators in different parts of the world. And they just went, you know what, 2-hour window, if you have an issue, we'll just auto refund it for you. Sony, if you do have a situation where you buy something by accident, or maybe one of your kids goes through the process of buying something and you get an alert, you're like, what happened? Oh, okay, you were clicking around on the PlayStation Store and you bought some random game. And then you go and you try to refund it and explain the situation. You jump through some hoops, you do. And then you finally get someone, they're like, we'll do it for you this time, okay? That's really what happens. So yes, there are so many things that need to be worked out when it comes to how exactly an all-digital system in future would look. And sadly, it takes forever for any kind of government body to figure anything out. And by then, we'll already probably be most of the way through the PlayStation 6 generation, and Sony will be, yeah, laughing all the way to the bank. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to see my immediate reaction. Like, I seriously made a video at like very, very soon after the news went down about Sony moving away from physical PlayStation games. I did a whole video on that, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.